This is a picture book, and it's for, I'd say, 4 to 10-year-olds. And it really is a book that started with a real situation. I had a friend that came to visit me in Sikkim, and she slept in the shrine room of the house. In every house in Sikkim there is a shrine room, a Buddhist shrine room. And in the shrine room, no one can, you can't kill anything. Actually, in all of Sikkim, you're not supposed to kill anything, but especially in the shrine room. And that night, her last night, she did not sleep at all because there was a mosquito buzzing around her ear. And you know what it's like with a mosquito buzzing around your ear all night. You can't sleep. So this book really started in a real life situation with someone that couldn't sleep because of a mosquito. And the problem was she'd promised her friend not to kill anything in that shrine room because she was sleeping in a shrine room. So this is a picture book based on that experience. This is like a bedtime story that you would read. It's like a 5-minute read aloud that is a, you know, I mean, I'm also a teacher in Sikkim, so I use this in 1st and 2nd grades, even in kindergarten, as a read aloud for kids. So it's a great read aloud for parents to read to their children or teachers to their students. This is the first book I've done. I have another book called Sonam Seasons, which will be coming out. It's also published by Scholastic, and it'll come out next year. And the impetus for that book, and really for this book too, is that there's so few books set in Sikkim. And that book is set in Sikkim, and that should come out next year. It's called Sonam Seasons. It's about a very naughty little boy. I first came to Sikkim in 1978 after I finished college and got married to a Sikkimese man. And we lived in Sikkim for 4 years. Then left, came back to the States, raised 2 kids, and then 12 years ago went back to Sikkim and have lived there since. And in terms of Sikkimese culture and myself, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, USA, and Sikkim is probably the most opposite culture from the one I grew up in. It's very peaceful. People are, I think Buddhism is sort of, you know, trickled down into the way people are, and it's not just peaceful, but people are incredibly hospitable, and they're very soft-spoken. So when I say it's the opposite of Boston, Massachusetts, where people are sort of harder, colder, more driven. So I love Sikkim, and I love being there, and I'm not saying it's exactly Shangri-La, because every place has its problems, but it has a wonderful tradition of, I'd say, hospitality, generosity, and compassion, which is wonderful to live in. Well, right now it's just published in India, but I think it is a book that has universal appeal because, you know, more and more in Western countries, people are interested and need to know what's going on, especially in India, because India is such an up-and-coming force that I think there's a lot more interest. And so yeah, I think it definitely has universal appeal. And everybody's had an irritating mosquito buzzing around their ear at night. That's interesting because the illustrator of this book is, she's a Czech American. And I mean, you can see that but she came to Sikkim for a month. And she went everywhere, she looked at everything, she took pictures, and she's a great illustrator. Her name's Anna Wojtek, and she really was interested in the little details she would notice and put in the illustration. In the second book that's coming out next year called Sonam Seasons, that is done by a tanka painter. Tankas are the religious, Tibetan-style religious paintings. So that's going to be an interesting one to see because she's using that Tibetan style to illustrate a children's book. So that'll be altogether different. There really isn't a moral, and one of the things that we worked I worked on this book. I mean, it's really a lot thanks to Anushka Ravishankar, who's a really well-known children's book writer here in India, but also internationally known. And we didn't want it really to have like "don't kill mosquito" moral, but we wanted to show more what it's like when you're in a kind of ethical dilemma like that, when you've made a promise. As the main characters made a promise not to kill anything in the shrine room, but you have this irritating mosquito, what do you do? So really, instead of giving a moral, what we wanted to do was sort of give a question and have kids think about that question. What do you do in this situation? So I think the most important thing about reading is, especially for small children, is to read to them, and for parents to read to them at bedtime, when they just need settling down, but to make the act of reading a pleasurable activity that parents can do with children, especially small children. Looking at picture books together, reading them together is a wonderful experience of bonding, and bonding with your parents or with your children, but also bonding with a book. So I think that's something I'd really urge parents to do.